All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. The second item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Moved by Lucido, supported by Leonetti. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Please vote on your iPads. The fourth item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the joint meeting of JPS and Government Operations. Moved by Brown, supported by Romano. Any discussion on the minutes? Please vote on your iPads. Item number 5, public participation. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the committee? Seeing none, we'll close public participation and move to department recommendations. 6A, budget amendment, which is 42-1 District Court, the Sobriety Court, and we have Lisa Ellis to speak on that.
Can you push the button on that, please? Right in the middle. There you go.
Sorry.
It's all right. No, we should have it on. Someone's not doing it.
No, that's fine. I'm not sure what information you'd like me to share, but I'll just let you know that this is a drug court that Judge LeDuc operates in the Romeo District Court. He's operated it for the last 2 years. They've had an OHSP, Office of Highway Safety Planning grant for the last 2 years. This is a transition year where they have that and this additional state grant for $15,000 to operate the drug court. This will be the last year for the OHSP grant, and they'll transition fully to the state grant for next year for their drug court.
And the packet indicates that there's no county match?
That's correct.
Okay. Are there any questions or any discussion on this? Commissioner Romano.
What's OHSP?
Office of Highway Safety Planning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
I'm just moving.
Any other discussion? Okay. Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I apologize, I know you just said that this grant will be the last of it. Is that what you said? And then
The one that's before you today is the first year on the state grant. This is a new grant, and that's why it's here in front of the board today. The OHSP grant has been in existence for 2 prior years, and this is its 3rd year, so it's the final year for that one. So it's a transition year. It's phasing out the federal grant and phasing into the state grant. So we have $15,000 from each grant this year for the drug court program, because it's the last year for OHSP with $15,000, and it's opening up the state grant.
Madam Chair, if I can, so does that mean, so next year we would only have 15,000
No, the state grant will likely be higher.
to 30?
Yes.
To be even?
Depending on what they budget for, how many people they have in their program that year, but somewhere in that neighborhood, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Brown.
I just want to say that drug court's been well received in the community. I hear many accolades from people who participated in it. Not many, but occasionally I'll hear somebody talking well about the program, and it's a real bonus to the community. And I thank the judge and you and everyone else involved with it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll pass that along. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lucido, were you on my list? No. Any other speakers? There's a motion by Kleinfeld. Is there support? Supported by Carabelli. Please vote on your iPads. And that item unanimously passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is a budget amendment for the Circuit Court, the Swift Ensure Sanctions Probation Program, and we have Judge Massaroni to speak on that.
No, go ahead. You want to talk numbers?
All right. I don't know, Commissioner Leonetti indicated a little bit about the program to me earlier, so I'm thinking that you may be familiar with it. I guess I'm in a position where I don't know how much that you actually know, because I just found out about this meeting today.
We have received a packet that has the letter from the state court, from the Supreme Court, indicating that there is a grant that's coming in the amount $15,000, and that was for the grant period of October 1 of 17 to September 30th of 18. And so this is a budget amendment. Generally,
Right.
what we do is just get some presentation on the program or
Okay.
anything that you wanted to add in addition to the recommendation.
Okay, very well. Well, the program was started in Hawaii. It's called Swift and Sure. The idea is that it is geared toward a segment of probationers that may not be specifically have a, I guess, a deep substance abuse issue, but more a cognitive issue wherein they would benefit from enhanced probation or more structure. It is a type of diversionary program. In other words, this would be geared towards probationers that may be going to prison or facing a year in the county jail. And this is an opportunity to keep them out of jail or out of prison and on a more enhanced probationary term. They're typically people, they will be people that have failed on probation at least twice before on that offense, or in their history have failed on probation before. And it has some indication that this segment of probationers does better than your average segment of probationers. So it's essentially, it's another specialty court. There are various courts throughout the state of Michigan that have implemented this type of program with varying degrees of success. We did, when we were applying for the grant, go and visit some of those programs to get ideas on how they run it before we submitted our grant proposal and were approved. So for the first year of it, I'm going to be running it. In other words, it's only going to be probationers that come through my court. We haven't opened it up to the rest of the circuit court judges at this time. In years to come, if we expand the program, we hope to do that. One of the benefits of this program above some of the other programs is that you can theoretically have a larger group of probationers in it, because it's not as time intensive as, say, your drug court program or veterans court program, because they don't, you don't meet with the probationers every week. The idea of it is essentially that they are given, at sentencing, they're given a set of strict conditions that they are to meet. If they violate those conditions, they are picked up within a period of 72 hours and brought before the court, as opposed to your typical probationer may violate, technically violate 3 or 4 or 5 times before the probation officer actually submits a warrant to the judge for that judge's signature and then brought in. So you could have quite a time lag before they actually face any consequences for their actions or for their violation of that probation. So the idea of this program is to essentially have some strict rules in place, and structure in place, and any violation is dealt with immediately. Essentially, it's where you get the SWIFT name and the SWIFT and Sure, and that the sanction is known. In other words, the first sanction is typically 3 days incarceration, unless it's a sanction for a new crime. 3 days incarceration. The second sanction, I believe, is 9 days incarceration, and it progresses from there until ultimately there could be a termination from the program. So that's essentially the theory behind it.
Are there any questions on this item? Commissioner Drollet?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Judge, for coming and explaining the program. You mentioned that it has met varying degrees of success in other communities where it's been tried. What is success for us? At the end of the program, when we look back and you review it, how will we know it's been successful?
Well, we'll obviously keep track of the probationers that are on it, but success for me would be that they do not commit another offense, which I think is a goal of any probationary period. I mean, the ultimate
Sure.
goal of probation is that person doesn't reoffend.
Right, but is there a percent that don't I mean, what are the percent of typical people who do reoffend compared to this program?
Do we have some of those numbers, Lisa?
We don't, and one of the things that we'll look at when we measure after the first year of the pilot is if we've kept them out of the prison or the jail. So these are people who have repeatedly failed on probation attempts in the past, and they've gotten a year in the county jail or they've gotten a prison term. And we would measure success in that term by if they complete the probation successfully and they don't do that year in the county jail or they don't end up with a prison incarceration, then those would be successful because they have not been able to prior complete probation successfully.
Right, but
Does that make sense? So we're
it
keeping them
does,
out of the jail, we're
individually.
saving jail beds.
Right, individually, but obviously we're not going to have 100% success. There are going to be people who.
No, it'll be measured on a percentage basis.
Okay, and I suppose it'd be compared to the outcomes that we would have had absent the program, or we typically experience with probation. We would just compare this people on this particular type of probation compared to their typical probation that has existed, and look at the percentages and hope
Correct.
that we've had success.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Carabelli?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kind of along the same lines, would this be running through your Community Corrections Advisory Board? Is this Community Corrections, would you be working with them to determine the individuals to receive this? Or is this something that you personally, in your court, that you'll make that decision?
Well, they're, yes and no. They're actually screened first by probation. We do have a criteria for those that will meet the criteria. And then they are forwarded to me. Typically when I get a sentencing, or any judge gets a sentencing, you get a pre-sentence investigative report. In that report, there'll be a recommendation, just like there's a recommendation now for someone to go to, say, boot camp or the SAI program. There'd be a recommendation that this person qualifies for Swift and Sure, and we've also left some space for the probationer actually to give an input, or the screener to actually indicate whether or not they think that they would be an appropriate candidate for Swift and Sure.
Okay.
And then we're limited we're limited as to 25 the first year.
Okay. And Madam Chair, and the reason I kind of ask is that the Community Corrections Advisory Board, there's been some great statistics coming out of that. And I don't know if they can, if you guys do that, you're going to be able to do your own statistics on that to follow through all the way through. These programs are great, and, if it's a success, we'd like to really know if it's a success. And if
Right.
it's not, we'd like to know that as well. And I know it's grant dollars coming in, but at the same token, it's all tax dollars. And again, I can only give kudos to the Community Correction Advisory Board because they've done some programs down there to avert from the jail. And
But this program is not being run through community corrections, it's being run through your courtroom, correct?
correct. Well, the screening
Correct,
process.
but we're working with community corrections.
Okay, and again, the reason being is that obviously if we don't have to have someone in the county jail, it's a win for us all the way around. But if we can't quantify that, that's where I guess I'm running into the issues when we do these programs. It's just very important, the statistics that come out afterwards.
Sure.
We're going to be using the state's DCCMIS, which is a database, a case records management database, and we'll be putting all the information on all of these participants into that and be able to pull, they have an analytical component that we'll be able to pull statistics back out of after the first year of the pilot to measure our successes and failures.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to see you, Judge. And this might answer some of your questions. And I'm going to ask this first. This is mainly for, you indicated it wasn't for people on drug offenses. You're limited to only 25. So is this going to be people like on a straddle cell? I mean, are we expecting like they're going to have a high PRV score on the sentencing guidelines, maybe a high OV score, and you could put them in prison or you could put them in jail,
Right.
but they might be assessed by probation to say, this is a good candidate to go into this program. Is that what we're
Correct.
kind of looking at, those kind of defendants?
That's the general type. It doesn't have to be someone in a straddle cell.
Okay.
And if I said that it's not somebody on a drug offense, I misspoke.
Okay.
It could be somebody on a drug offense, but this program wouldn't be geared to someone that is a
Right.
full-blown heroin addict. 'Cause
Right.
they need treatment. And whereas a defendant in this program might get treatment on the outset if they do have a drug issue, I guess if the probationer's primary issue is a heroin addiction that's driving everything else, they're probably not right for this program.
Right.
If the person is more,
They have a high PRV. They just keep doing crime.
yeah,
you
they
know
just,
what I mean?
yeah, like I said, that's where I referenced like more of a cognitive,
Right.
like people that are good at, or good candidates for cognitive restructuring programs, that kind of thing. And typically dabbling in drugs here and there is a characteristic of their behavior, but not the driving force behind their behavior. That's kind of more what the program is designed for.
Okay. Just for a point of information, PRV is a prior record variable. So, well, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But again, And I think the intent behind the program, and you may know this, Judge, you may not, is, we don't want to put people in prison if we don't have to. But oftentimes, judges and attorneys are stuck with a sentencing guideline that would suggest the person should go to prison because they have a cognitive deficiency where they keep doing the same thing over and over again. And this program might be able to keep them out of prison, but keep a good, strong look at them in the community. So if they screw up instantly, now we get them in front of the judge and they will go to prison or whatever other alternatives there are. But no, I'm looking forward to the program. And are we going to have a choice, or is it something that's just going to go through probation and come back? The defense attorneys can say, this is a guy that might want to benefit from the program, or is it going to be decided at the screening level?
They get, defense attorneys can ask for it, ask that they be screened for it, but
Okay.
it's not, and it's not something, something I should point out is it's, some of the other specialty courts, the defendant has to agree to go into it.
Correct.
It doesn't require the defendant's agreement.
Okay. Okay.
If the defendant is, the success rate would probably depend on whether or not they're willing to do it, of course, but I don't have to wait for them to sign an agreement to go into this program. I can order, it's essentially a condition of their probation. I can just order them into the Swift and Sure program.
So it's an added thing to the sentencing guideline in a sense. You look at the guidelines and you say, hey,
Right.
I think this guy would qualify. Maybe he's a straddle cell. Put him into this program, and we'll give him a chance. And if he screws up,
That's why I mentioned boot camp or SAI
Right.
earlier, because it's more akin to that. It's another tool out there to address probationers' needs essentially, and hopefully, and that structure. Not only does it give the court an ability to see them back quickly on any type of violation, but the process of going through a 2 to 3 year period of probation being that strict in and of itself has some like cognitive restructuring elements to it. So it's not just, you're watching it for 3 years, but the hope is that this program will actually alter the criminal behavior so that they don't reoffend.
right? That's it. Okay. Thanks, Judge. Always good to see you.
Thank you. Always good to see you.
Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Okay, so just when you're clarifying for us, and you say straddle cell and O whatever and QP and Y, you're not really clarifying for us, so just understand that we aren't all lawyers, and probably 8 of us up here still don't have any idea what you said, but I support the program. Thank you.
Sorry.
I don't have any other speakers on the list. Is there a motion to forward this to finance? Moved by Romano, supported by Carabelli. Please vote on your iPad. The item unanimously passes. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. And anybody has any further questions about it, I'm always happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you, Lisa.
Merry Christmas to you.
Item number 7, new business. Is there any new business? Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Just that I failed to pass this on yesterday, and I know that Chair Smith knows. I got a text message from Commissioner Duge yesterday morning. He had been in the hospital. He wanted everybody to know that he was sick and he wouldn't be here yesterday or today. So I just wanted to let you know that. He didn't respond any further than that. I think that Patty knows a little bit more.
Probably not our business to share in a public meeting, and maybe we can check with Patty.
That's a good idea.
Chair Smith?
Thanks. Just a note that I haven't really heard anything about today on the news or anything else, that 76 years ago today, the United States was suddenly and deliberately attacked by Japan in Pearl Harbor. And I just a couple little statistics on it. The raid left 20 U.S. naval vessels damaged or destroyed, 300 aircraft, more than 2,400 Americans were killed, and about 1,000 more were wounded. So I just wanted to point that out. I haven't heard anything about it this year. I just wanted to give us all a little bit of information on it, because a lot of this stuff was new to me, but just to remember what happened in our country's past is always something good to think about.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, there's, no, pass, never mind, thank you.
Is there any other new business? I don't have anybody on my list. Item number 8, public participation. Seeing no members of the public, will close public participation. And is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Drollet, supported by Carabelli. Please vote on your iPads. Thank you.